say, kids, what time is it?
I did horrible, Edson.
No, I mean, look at most of the teams did horrible. They didn't even show up. It's like we could have used a lot better quality games this past weekend.
Yeah. So we'll get this out of the way quickly. I went 3-3. You went 4-2. Patriots hosed me, but boy, I texted you after the very first game, and I said,
Yep.
"Oh, that was awesome! If all the games are like this, we're in for a treat." There was only one other game like that.
Yeah, and even that game was kind of like, although it was close with the scoring, it kind of was, I don't know. I didn't really like the game itself in general. It's like it wasn't great quality football either, but it was a close game.
There was not much theater last weekend after that first Cincinnati Raiders game.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, the Raiders, if they didn't make so many stupid mistakes early on with penalties, and they could have easily won that game.
Yeah. Yep.
Cincinnati didn't really impress me in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I guess I will just get into it now. It's like I think they had a couple. I don't know their names, but a couple of injuries on the defensive line. And then I remember texting you in the second half saying, "Geez, I could be back there, with Carr and like throwing the ball because it looks like he has forever to pass because there was no pass rush at all from Cincinnati." And I know they did. A couple of people went out. A couple of their starters went out with injury, so that's worrisome for them.
Yeah,
the defensive line.
Yeah. So then the Patriots pulled an absolute no-show in Buffalo. That was shocking to me because it was the third time in 7 weeks they got together. You figure I took them because the hoodie, right? 3 times.
Yep.
And boy, oh boy, I mean, they just looked uninspired. It looked to me like once they got down by 3 scores, the Patriots defense just packed it in. They weren't even trying anymore.
Yeah, that's what the shocking part of it for me is. It's like that a Belichick defense. I've never seen them a defense show up like that or not show up like that at all.
Not at all. They have a top 5 defense and it just went to sleep. That was really, really weird. Shocking.
I haven't even seen a regular season game where one opponent, whether it's like you're playing the Lions or the Giants, or it goes for 7 straight drives and touchdowns, seven straight times. I've never seen that before. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it was really weird. I mean, you expected Mac Jones and the offense to struggle a little bit. I mean, it was really, really cold and stuff, and I think that's why the defense, it just looked like they didn't even want to hit anymore. Like it was just, they were like, you know what? It's cold. We're down by 3 scores already. Let's just get out of here. That's what it looked like. You know, I shut it off at halftime because it just wasn't to the eyeball test. It was bad. You know,
and the first couple of drives that Mac Jones was actually doing pretty well. He was driving down, and it's like, of course, he had that really good play by the Buffalo defense.
Oh, Micah Hyde
interception
made that great.
in the end zone, and it's like, but he was doing pretty well, and then it just snowballed, and it's like
what hurt him. I think his receivers were dropping balls all over the place.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And with a young quarterback, that can easily shake your confidence in going back to them. Every single one of them, Bourne and Myers, they all drop balls. It was bad. And then the next day we had another blowout. You know, the Eagles in Tampa. You got what you expected out of that.
Which is probably that's the one you probably expected. Yeah.
And I will say though that Tampa Bay suffered a few injuries in that game that probably won't help them going forward. I don't know. That's going to be tough. I mean, you never bet against Tom Brady, but you know.
I know, but it is significant.
It's a little trivia for you, by the way. now that there's, 4 teams left in the NFC, do you know that Tom Brady is older than the 3 other coaches he has to face?
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's freaking
McVay's
crazy.
35, and LaFleur and Shanahan are 42. Brady's 44.
Just nuts. That's just nuts. Wow.
Then the other semi-close game, if you want to call it that, was the 49ers and the Cowboys. We both had Dallas, but you know what? We both bit our bottom lip when we picked it. Because we knew what they were capable of, and they did exactly what
I
we
remember leading up to that. I'm like, this just feels like this situation where Dallas is going to screw up again. But I'll just go with them anyway. Boy, that was a mistake. I know it was a close game, but that game, it's like that was not good football, especially on the Cowboy side. And then in the last, like, I don't know, half of a quarter, both teams were trying to give it away to the other one. That was like really sloppy, bad, penalty-filled.
Penalty, yeah. And Jimmy G did his once a game Jimmy G thing.
Tried to give it away.
Tries to give the game back to the other team. Like I thought he would, right?
Right.
Except they had a big enough cushion, and Dallas was just as inept coming back.
Wow.
You know, boy, there's a lot to unpack in this game.
Yeah.
What Dallas have? 15 penalties or something like that?
Yeah, I think it might have been 14, but yeah, 14 or 15.
14 or 15 penalties. Prescott looked all out of whack. And actually got fined because he cheered on the fans who were throwing things at the referees. Now, you can't blame the referees for that last play. Now, we all know, this is amazing that Mike McCarthy didn't even know this. Mike McCarthy blamed the umpire for getting in the way. The umpire has to spot the ball.
Yep, he does.
And McCarthy's saying, well, we ran this in practice all week. Yeah, well, without a referee there to spot the ball.
Right. You can't just have a one side of the contest be the ones who spot the ball. That's so stupid.
It's moronic. And then Rex Ryan was killing him Monday. Like Rex Ryan said, we would bring retired officials to our practice, especially at playoff time. So we knew
that's
we
a good
were.
Idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea, right? To have officials at practice to make sure you're doing things within the confines of the rules, right? Mike McCarthy's a horrible head coach. He's been carried by the talent he had in Green Bay, and he's being carried by the talent he has in Dallas. It's obvious. I mean, the guy doesn't even know that. He goes to the press conference and says the umpire got in the way. Oh my God,
that is horrible.
It's awful.
And much like the Patriots, I know it's not the same thing, but the Patriots defense didn't show up. The Cowboys, the offense didn't show up until much when it was like really desperate times. It's like, are you kidding me? You're going to blame the refs for all those drives that you went 3 and out and
that's what I was going to say too. You shouldn't be upset that it came down to that one last play. You had 59 other minutes to deal with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous. And who called that play? Who calls a design quarterback draw when you have no timeouts and 14 seconds to go? What are you, insane? I couldn't believe that. I thought I was seeing something when he took off. I was like, what is he doing? That's so stupid.
And I know it's like, obviously you're tempted because you know the middle of the field is going to be open, but who cares? It's like, obviously they're going to leave the middle of the field open because they know you can't
line up and clock the ball in time.
Duh. It's like, that's why it's open.
You know, with 14 seconds to go, you've got two, maybe even three passing plays, right? Just they were close enough. Take a few shots at the end. Just take your shots there. Take 3 shots at the end zone. No, yeah.
I don't know how other teams I've seen in this similar situation somehow get one guy like a 20-yard out or near the sidelines. They all somehow pull it off, but this team just couldn't do anything.
With the receivers on that team?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw what Troy Aikman said, but Troy Aikman...
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he was just saying, it's like, so, especially with a guy like CeeDee Lamb, they completely misused him. They went away from him, and it was like he had single whole game. You couldn't make plays with him. It's like, are you kidding me? And I agree with him. It's like...
I like what he said specifically about offensive coordinators over scheming themselves right out of When you got again. He said the same thing. Kind of use your eyeballs.
Right.
If you see one-on-one, CeeDee Lamb's going to eat this guy alive, or you can see him in the route running is eating the guy alive. Throw the play out
Just
the
throw the
window.
ball.
Throw the
Yeah.
play out the window and throw the ball. Like play. You got to play on instinct a lot. That's why I love the quarterbacks and stuff of the 70s, like Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach. Those guys called their own plays.
Yep.
They didn't have a coordinator telling them what to do. That was my problem with Roethlisberger all year with Matt Canada up in Pittsburgh. Guy designs a horrible game plan over and over and over again, and I don't know why Ben did just say, "Screw you, I'm retiring anyway." What are you gonna do? And blow him off.
And you could see some of the success they have when they go on like kind of like the 2-minute warning type.
The no
even
huddle
when it's
stuff.
Not, yeah, no huddle. He does have success. He's had a lot of success with that, and obviously that's when he calls them.
That's when they're behind by 5 scores.
Yeah, I know. By then it's
and then that's the game plan's out the window anyway. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of the aforementioned now retired Ben Roethlisberger, wearing the shirt one last time.
We're eventually going to get to that game.
Yeah, that was the final game on Sunday night. I thought it would be close. We both thought it would be close.
Yep, I definitely did.
It was close for a quarter and a half. Actually, till there were 4 minutes to go in the first half. The Steelers had a 7-0 lead with 4 and change. And at halftime, it was 21-7. It happened that fast.
I couldn't believe that it was actually 21-7. I mean, I saw the 4. Okay, I knew eventually Kansas City was going to, be able to be successful on offense, especially since the Pittsburgh offense wasn't helping the team at all. It just kept going out 3 and out. So eventually, you're going to tire out the defense, and Kansas City's going to be successful sooner or later. And they got 2 in there, but then when they actually got that third touchdown with 38 seconds, maybe 30 seconds left, I'm like, unbelievable.
And then they get
holy cow.
Then they get the ball, the kick at halftime in the second half, and they go down and score again. It was game over.
Yeah, and then it's like that's it.
Yeah, 28-7, and it's amazing to me too. What was irritating me is Chris Collinsworth was irritating me when he kept asking. Oh, what happened to the Steeler defense? They looked so good for a while, and now, what do you mean? Dude, you're putting up the graphics. 7 drives in a row, 3 and out. Hello? Yep. What do you mean what happened? They played the whole quarter, the whole half. They're tired, especially because they came out over-adrenalized. You could tell the defense was shot out of a cannon. They were pumped up, and you can't sustain that for long.
No, you can't.
If your offense is not going to help you out, and it was right after Watt's touchdown. That was it. They shot their low. That was.
Well, I mean, if they have to keep going back out, I mean,
yeah,
normally you only get a team's offense only gets 4 or 5 drives in the whole half, but Kansas City got 4 or 5 freebies where they did nothing, and then still got 3 or 4 more after that.
That they scored on.
Yeah, and then they scored. I mean,
exactly.
Geez. You knew sooner or later it was going to break through. It's like you can't keep them at bay forever, but damn.
It was amazing. So they lost the first game to the Chiefs by 26 3 weeks ago, and then this week they lost by 21. So, yeah, that was impressive. And so then Monday night, another clunker. Shocking. Shocking.
What are you doing?
The Arizona Cardinals going, and you know what? We both, again, just like Dallas, we said, I don't know about Cliff Kingsbury. But the Cardinals were the best team this year until, wow, I can't believe that train went off the rails, man.
They were the best team as late as 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it's undefeated, and it's they could do no wrong, and
even with guys missing, yeah.
How did they just fall off? And it's I know, was DeAndre Hopkins that big of a part of them that? Because that was the one significant injury that he never came back from.
Yeah,
it was wow.
They still should have been able to make up for that. This team clearly lost confidence somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
because they didn't look. They looked timid. They looked like they couldn't hang with the Rams, and that game was over early. I mean, it was obvious pretty early on that the Rams were going to.
Yeah, it was 21-0 before. Yeah. I think it's crazy to say this, but it was 21-0 before I think Arizona even got a first down.
Yeah, I think you're right. With all that firepower on that team, yeah.
And we usually, rightly so, say Stafford has one of those Garoppolo moments where he tries to kind of give it, but when you're up like so fast, you have no pressure on you. I mean, there was no moment where he
No.
had to
I
do
think
that.
one of the big momentum changers too was when Buda Baker got hurt, when Cam Akers
Oh
ran him
yeah,
over, and it looked
yeah.
like he might be paralyzed. Like that's the kind of
Jeez,
thing
yeah,
where
that was bad. That was
you
bad.
know you could just see the shoulders slump on that Cardinals team, and they got J.J. Watt back, but then they lost Buda Baker, and it was a horrifying. It looked horrible. Thank God he's okay,
Yeah,
but that can take a lot out of you too. That
yeah, definitely.
just took the starch right out of him. And it was just 4 of those 6 games were really bad. Actually, you could say 5 of them. Dallas
Yeah,
wasn't,
I would say 5 of them.
even though the Dallas 49ers game came down to a crazy ending like that, you never had the feeling Dallas was ever going to catch up to them the whole time. You just never
Yeah,
felt
I felt that
confident.
way. It's
But
like
the, the first game, I thought the Raiders might catch the Bengals. So.
that was a really good game. Yep, yep.
So, let's hope this week's better. I mean, in the wild card round, you tend to get, and maybe this is a product too of adding the extra team.
I was just gonna say that you got the seventh, seed on both sides, and you get some of these clunker games.
I
Yep.
mean, that would be the 2 Pennsylvania teams. The Eagles and the Steelers were both the 7th seed, and they put up barely a struggle at all. And if you could say, at least in Pittsburgh's case, there were 2 better teams sitting home watching them do that. The Chargers and the Colts were sitting home going, really? I think we would have done a little bit better than this. And maybe the Saints were saying the same thing about the
Saints and
Eagles.
the Vikings probably.
Yeah, maybe the Vikings too,
At
right?
some point, we thought one of those teams. I don't think we felt that the Eagles were going to make it to the
Right.
playoffs until the very end. So
Yeah.
uh, they did have a lot of. I know you can't blame a team for beating the teams on their schedule, but that last like 5 games that they got into, it was like Washington twice, the Giants twice. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
geez, by that time, those 2 teams are kind of just like done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it doesn't make for entertaining viewing, that's for sure. I think of the 6 games, I think I walked away from 4 of them at halftime. Shaking my head going, oof, boy.
Uh,
I hope this week's better. So let's get into this week a little bit. Shall we?
yep.
First up, hey, we got this. We got one of the teams again. The first game, maybe it'll be another good one. The AFC Divisional Playoff game Saturday, January 22nd, 4:30 p.m. on CBS. Cincinnati travels to Nissan Stadium in Nashville to take on the Titans.
Yeah, and I'm like just kind of like don't know what to think about this game from both teams' perspectives. It's like we haven't seen the Titans play in a while. It seems like a lot more than just 2 weeks.
Doesn't it?
My gosh, it's like where has this team been? It's like then you have the I know most likely Henry's going to play, but we don't know what version of Henry is. Like, is he fully recovered? Is he kind of like a slow down version of him? But even so, that Tennessee offensive line is good enough to have like his backups do well in the last few games of the season when after he left. So that's not a big problem. Cincinnati, we just mentioned before, they now have some injuries on the defensive line. How are they going to do stopping the run and most especially, I think a key to this game might be their linebackers, whether they're going to like fall for that play action pass that Tannehill's so good at,
Yeah.
or is it covering that middle part of the field? How are they? How is that? I think Cincinnati, out of these 2 teams for this game, Cincinnati has like, I think, the weakest unit and also the strongest unit. I think their offense is a little bit better than the Tennessee offense, but their defense is probably not as good as the Tennessee defense. So I honestly, it's probably going to be the same thing for all 4 games this weekend. That I have no idea, like, really who it could go either way. I think more because my heart's speaking, I'm gonna go with Cincinnati because I'm probably hoping that they'll win, but it's going to be a very difficult thing for them. Um, Burrow just needs to, if his offensive line can give him enough time to find his receivers, I think they'll have some success. But you saw against the Raiders with that Raiders, you know, rush that they had to settle for so many field goals.
Yeah, they did.
And that's a problem if this continues. But I'm gonna take a chance and still pick them. I think it's more because I just kind of like jumping on their side of it, and it's more like what I root for to happen. But might go the other way in a bad way.
Well, the Titans, according to the FanDuel Sportsbook, are giving them 3.5 on the
Okay,
odds So
all
Tennessee's
right,
favored by 3.5. So that tells you right there that
yeah.
it'd probably be a field goal game. So if I was a
I
betting man,
hope
I'd take the Bengals with 3 for sure. But
either way, I hope it's like a field goal game because at least it'll be a close game.
yeah, I think what the Raiders and the Bengals settled for 10 combined field goals, was it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that, 5 on each side, right?
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah,
I'm with you here. This is a tough game. This can go either way. Joe Burrow is definitely a stud. He's all grown up. He's
yeah.
an elite quarterback in this league, and Jamar Chase is quite possibly on his way to being the best receiver in the league. That Tennessee defense, we killed them last year. We killed them early this year. Didn't believe in them at all,
Yep,
but they proved us wrong. They
yep.
they proved us wrong. And Tennessee is built they're stout. They have I think the biggest defensive line in the league and the biggest offensive line in the league. And if there's one thing John Madden taught us growing up, is that
It's
the
the lines.
game
Yeah,
is won right there on that line, the line of scrimmage, by those big dudes.
yeah.
And
He's right. He's right.
what you said about the Raiders getting a lot of pressure on Burrow and forcing a lot of, forcing those short drives and kicking field goals, especially when he got down to when the field compresses as you get into the red zone.
Right.
I think that Tennessee might give them the same kind of problem.
Yep.
On the other side of the ball, the Titans have somehow being not being how can I word this? I want to say they're not flashy to the eye,
Right.
but somehow are able to put up 30 points a game. Even though
Yeah.
they don't
Somehow.
look spectacular doing it, right? And you're right, because Devonta Foreman's running the ball great, before him Henry. So, and now they got Julio Jones back healthy. They got A.J. Brown back healthy. I think the Titans are going into this game completely healthy. Now it's just
Yeah,
a
I think
matter
they
of,
are.
was the layoff going to put too much rust in the joints? That's, you see some of these teams come out of the bye week flat as a pancake. And before they know it, they're
Yeah.
in a brawl,
Sometimes
right? This is tough. I go back and forth on it. Mostly because I had the Patriots winning last week, which would have put Cincinnati in Kansas City, which I had a totally different mindset. So,
there goes the brackets everywhere.
right, exactly. So,
I don't know.
I'm going to go with the Titans on this one because they're home and they're super healthy. And I don't think Hendrickson's going to torture. Oh my God! I just drew a blank on the Titans quarterback.
Oh.
Oh my God! See what happens when we do this late at
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. I can't think of it.
Oh my God, Tannehill. I don't think he's going to get a lot of pressure on Tannehill. I think, like you said before, he's got that great play action going because the running game.
Yeah, because of the
running game
right.
sets that whole thing up for him. He's got the tight end. I think Cincinnati's a great story, but I think the ride ends here for this year. Watch out for them next year.
Too. Yeah, they're just getting better and better. So
They are. They're fun to watch. This is going to be a fun game to watch. I think this will be just as entertaining as the Cincinnati Vegas game was. I think it'll be almost the same kind of thing, to be honest with you, except that I think the result will be flip-flopped. Yeah.
And by the way, Derek Carr on his last year asking for more money. Do you somehow foresee him in a Steelers jersey?
Funny you say that. Just today, Bruce Gradkowski, former Steeler and former Raider, was on 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, and they asked him that very question.
Oh, really?
Because he's got some insider info. And
Wow.
he doesn't want to get in trouble with the Raiders because they still love him for beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And I was at that game. And he basically said, here's what he could see. Since they fired Mike Mayock, the GM,
Right.
They might let go of Rich Bisaccia, which would
Yep.
be so stupid. That guy's awesome. And Carr, who's in his option year. He's got another year under contract, but I know he wants to renegotiate and sign a long-term deal.
Yep.
He's like, I can foresee them trading Carr out of there and just kind of starting over with a new coach, new GM, which I think would be silly. That team is good.
I think it would be silly too, yeah.
But only the Raiders can outdo Miami in stupidity. So I walked away from that, listening to that today, going, they're going to say to Miami, hold my beer. And they're going to do exactly that. That would be awesome. I'd love Derek Carr in a Steelers uniform.
But he seems like a good fit there.
Definitely.
For sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I like
Just
the way he plays.
slinging it around, every which way. It's like kind of like that.
Yeah, gets out of the pocket, extends plays, just kind of gets creative on the run. Yeah, I'm with you. I was excited. I was like, oh, please trade him. Please trade him to Pittsburgh.
The only kind of like other thing is that he's probably gonna, if they do trade him, they're probably gonna have a lot of competition. I mean, I could see the Colts maybe trying to go after him. Washington.
Yeah.
Things. So I don't know. I'll have to see where the best if it does happen.
All right. Probably usually try to get him out of conference when they do that kind of thing. But
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, next up, also on Saturday, the late game, the 8:15 p.m. on Fox. The San Francisco Garoppolos travel up to Green Bay to play Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Yeah, so it's another team that we haven't seen.
Hang on a second. You know what we forgot to do real quick?
The weather?
We forgot to check the weather of the old Titans game.
I think I actually did look this up, and it was going to be kind of like mild, a little bit of wind, but not.
Saturday afternoon in Tennessee, 36 degrees.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Wind gust at 6 miles an hour out of the northwest, 4 mile an hour sustained. So
all right.
Real feel 42. That's prime football weather.
Yeah.
So all right, now on to the frozen tundra.
Yeah, so we have another team that we haven't seen played quite a while. In Green Bay, it was like, didn't they kind of like pull their guys like halfway through the Detroit game also?
Yes, they did.
That. So they're gonna, at least they're gonna be healthy, but will they have that rust like you mentioned? And then one last, because we're talking about the 49ers, this one last thing before I close the book on the whole Cowboy fiasco. I meant to say back when we were covering that game, it's like, and I know we've talked about this before, how the Cowboys have kind of missed a really big golden opportunity, because now they got their defensive coordinator having like 4 or 5 interviews for a head coaching job, Dan Quinn. Their offensive coordinator having multiple interviews for head coaching. They even have assistants having like that whole coaching staff McCarthy might have to start all over, and they're going to take a big step backwards, especially that defense with Dan Quinn there. And it's like, you really messed this up, having such a good defense. But,
I'm actually surprised that Mike McCarthy's still employed there.
Yeah, me too. Actually,
I would have broomed him and promoted one of those, either the offense or Quinn. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you could have kept Quinn, close to that defense. But well, whatever.
Yeah, or the OC. I think seems like Jerry's kind of grooming the offensive coordinator to take over.
It seemed like it too, but
would blow it up if he walked away, right?
Yeah. All right, so San Francisco, this game is kind of intriguing to me, because San Francisco, to me, is not the type of team that would be intimidated by going into Green Bay. I think they're kind of just like, they've played all these tough games. They're in the NFC West. They have all the slog fests. Whatever weather they play in, they're not going to be kind of like intimidated at all for going to whether it's weird weather conditions or it's like against the number 1 seed. So I'm hoping this will be a good game. I think that so 2 things I have that, which is why I'm going to pick Green Bay on this, but I'm not saying Green Bay is going to blow, I don't think Green Bay is going to blow them out. But the 2 things kind of like on the downside for San Francisco. One is the aforementioned moment in the game where Garoppolo makes that mistake. That and unlike the Cowboys, I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will take advantage of that. The other one is their coach, what is it? Kyle
Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan. He seems to during I've noticed especially during these big games, he seems to like as the game goes on, kind of like like change the
Yes.
way he coaches, and it just kind of doesn't coach the same way. Doesn't like shrinks down his playbook maybe.
Last week I called him another like he Schottenheimers.
Yeah, and maybe those two things are related. Maybe he does it because he's trying to prevent the Garoppolo mistake. I don't know. Maybe that's
Maybe.
it. So they might be linked together. And it's like when you're playing, it's a do or die game. You have to let it all out. You can't just start like getting like super conservative and playing to not lose.
Playing not to lose, right?
And it's like he seems to be doing that a lot. So. And Aaron Rodgers has been in all sorts of playoff games. He's not going to like flinch or anything like that. He's just going to, play his game, and that's why I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, when you talk about the Garoppolo moment, I almost see him like Wile E. Coyote. Like he picks up the football, but it's an Acme Dynamite football, and just poof, and he's just standing there all covered in soot, like And I would agree with you about Kyle Shanahan Schottenheimering, if we can make a verb out of Marty Schottenheimer. Because Marty, for those of you watching who don't know what I'm talking about, Marty Schottenheimer was the coach of the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs for 2 decades and had some of the best teams ever, even the Chargers.
Yeah.
The Chargers at the end, 14-2. And every time he got in the playoffs, whatever made him successful ended up going out the window, and he got really conservative for whatever reason and lost the playoff game.
Yep.
So, yeah, Shanahan, Schottenheimers for some reason. And I would agree that it might be to protect Garoppolo, except when he had Matt Ryan in Atlanta as the offensive coordinator, he would do the same thing. So,
yeah, that's true.
Who can explain that one? Anyway, Green Bay, 5.5-point favorite, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Injuries are also a factor here. Nick Bosa, concussion, not sure. They're going to rule him Friday or Saturday.
If they can't be there.
Right, that'll be big if Bosa plays. And I think they're going to have Fred Warner because he's not even listed here on the injury report.
Oh, good.
So
okay.
Fred Warner brings a whole other factor at linebacker to this game. Other notables for the 49ers, questionable Jordan Willis and Ambry Thomas, cornerback and defensive end. Packers have doubtful Marquise Valdes-Scantling, who's been playing really well down the stretch.
Yeah, yep.
And their offensive tackle, David, I can't say his name, Bakhtiari, who is, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think he's the left tackle.
What is he listed as, doubtful?
Questionable.
Or questionable, okay.
So even if he plays, he might not be himself. He's a really good tackle, and
Yep.
I think that can lend a factor. So, I mean, if Nick Bosa comes back and Bakhtiari is either injured or doesn't play at all, now Rodgers is going to be maybe running around a little bit out there.
Yep.
But I think you're right. We do have the 3-hour time change. I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference that late at night. It's going to be, well, let's check the old weather.
Green Bay.
It will be, wrong tab. It will be a frozen tundra. 4 degrees, real feel -1.
Wow.
No precipitation, wind gust of 13 miles per hour, sustained winds out of the west-northwest at 7 miles per hour. And it says here, hypothermia likely without protective clothing.
Jeez.
So it's going to be cold. This one, the 49ers are 3-0 in Lambeau Field the last 3 visits.
Yep. I remember I read that somewhere. So that is a factor.
That's a factor too.
Yep.
And so, you start adding these things up. Bosa comes back. Bakhtiari might not be able to play. I don't know. But there is the Garoppolo factor. and I will say this. If the 49ers can run the ball like they have been, they might change the complexion of this game because I think the Packers will have trouble with the run. Their defense has trouble with the run. but their defense doesn't have trouble with the pass, and Garoppolo does have trouble with the pass at certain points of the game, generally in the second half. So, boy, this is a coin flip for me. It looked obvious at first, Packers at home. But how many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers has been in the league, 15 years about, right? 12, 15 years?
Yeah.
One Super Bowl.
Yep.
They have problems winning playoff games at home. And it seems like year after year, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Green Bay. And we've seen them lose to the Seahawks, Tampa Bay, over and over this happens. Is this the year they break the streak? I'd like to say yes. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is on a mission this year. So I'm going to go with the Packers at home too.
You make a good point about the 49er running game, though, because especially with the weather that you just mentioned, they're probably going to try to do a lot of that. And if they get kind of like an early lead and they're going downhill, they can, minimize the passing, mistakes. So I don't know.
I mean, this could be one of those things, almost like that Super Bowl 25 matchup with the Giants and the Bills, where the Bills could strike quick and score, in a couple plays. And the Giants had to just grind it out on the ground, and they ate up the whole clock on the Bills.
Yep.
It's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm bummed there's not going to be any snow, but
yeah,
maybe next week.
Let's hope the championship games.
Yeah. So let's move to Sunday. Stay in the NFC. Sunday, January 23rd, 3 o'clock. I can't even read that. It's so small. 3 o'clock p.m.
What?
Eastern,
Is it 3 o'clock on Sunday?
on NBC.
Gee, I thought they only did that on championship game. Okay.
Yeah. The Los Angeles Rams travel to Tampa Bay, Raymond James Stadium, to take on Tom Brady and the hobbled Bucks.
Yeah, you mentioned the injuries to Tampa Bay, which I think is going to be a factor in this game. And, the Rams match up really well, I believe, against Tampa Bay with that defensive line. Von Miller finally just started playing some of his best of this year. At first he wasn't a factor when they traded for him, but now he's starting to come on. Adding on with Darnold, that defensive line really might give Tom Brady a lot to deal with. Of course, they have Ramsey in the secondary. And Tampa Bay has their significant injuries. I think that the Rams have a really good chance to win this game, but you also have the Stafford factor, which is probably similar to the Garoppolo factor, where it's like if he sees it kind of like gets tight and it, it's a tight game and he sees it kind of slipping away from him, also has a tendency to make those obvious mistakes, whereas Tom Brady doesn't do that. I don't know. It's like I know what I want to pick in my head, and I think Tampa Bay is going to pull this out, but I could easily see this as like the end of their kind of run for this year, because based on just having the injuries and the fact that the Ram defense does match up well against their offense. The only thing that I'm not sure about is, are they good at covering that middle? And not that I'm saying Gronkowski is at the prime of his game, but he does get a lot of catches in the middle of the field. And are the Rams equipped to kind of stop that? Because then that'll be like Tom Brady will be like quick passing Tom Brady, and it won't try to avoid the pressure. But I'm still going to stick with my original thinking that Tampa Bay is going to win this game, but not shocked at all if the Rams win.
Well, the Rams, this is the moment the Rams paid for.
Yeah, all the trades.
One of the moments, the first big moment, the wild card round.
Yeah, that was.
It is what it is, right? Now they're starting to get deeper in the playoffs. They got Matthew Stafford. He's been baptized. He got the monkey off his back, as Steve Young would say.
Win. Yep.
He got his playoff win, and he didn't turn the ball over. Now they're going to Tom Brady land. The defending champs are not. Regardless of the amount of injuries piling up on Tampa Bay's side of the ball, they are not going to go down quietly if they go down at all. So the game opened at 2.5. It's now at 3,
okay.
even 3, according to the FanDuel Sportsbook. Not a sponsor, but could be. We wouldn't say
Definitely
no.
could be.
Just like AccuWeather, we'll take your money too. So the two tackles, Wells and Wirfs. Wells limited participation in practice today. Wirfs did not participate.
Wow.
So
Okay. That's not good.
yeah, I mean that's the biggest problem. It wasn't like you lost a guard and a tackle; you lost 2 tackles.
2 tackles.
And your center Ryan Jensen is also hobbled, didn't participate. So center 2 tackles. I don't know. I still don't think that's enough to shut Tom Brady down. I saw the other day Brady's like getting the ball out in 1.6 seconds.
Oh, wow.
On average. He did lead the league in passing this year. He's just one of those players that at this time of year, he just elevates everybody around him. He's 14-2 in divisional round games in his career. This could be a 3rd loss. I'm with
Could
you
be.
on this. I feel the same way. The Rams got the running game going. The Rams got Matthew Stafford off the schneid. They kind of are coming in with a lot of confidence. You're right about Von Miller. Von Miller is now the scariest player on their defense.
Yeah.
And then you still got to deal with Floyd, and you got to deal with what's his name there? Donald, Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
so
Aaron Donald, yeah.
Yeah. The Rams are like a Pro Bowl team. That's what they look like. They're like this composited all-star team. And you wonder if and when all those pieces that are glued together are just going to shatter. And you wonder about Matthew Stafford. I mean, Tampa Bay does have a solid defense.
Yeah.
And they don't look like they did quite as good as last year. And it's hard to tell when they're playing the Eagles last week. I was watching it with our friends George and Angelo down at the pizza place from Pizza Pop Culture there. And they both said the same thing. Like, it's hard to tell how good Tampa Bay is.
Yeah.
Because we're not sure how bad Philadelphia is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, is Tampa Bay beating Philadelphia, or is Philadelphia beating Philadelphia? So it was,
Yeah.
Point. But for me, look, it's Tom Brady. And until someone dethrones Tom Brady, I'm going to stick with Tom Brady. And, I can see him winning another one anyway. So I'm also going to go Tampa Bay at home. Let's check the weather real quick.
The last thought it just occurred to me, the last thought I wanted to put about this game is that obviously the game planners on both teams are smart. And I'm like, if they were smart on the Rams side, go watch what New Orleans did. And not that you think you have the personnel for it, but New Orleans seems to be the only that kind of completely stymies
I know
Tom Brady as a Tampa Bay quarterback. It's like, go watch what they did and try to see if you can,
That's an excellent point. If I'm Sean McVay, I'm calling Sean Payton, and saying, dude, give me all your game films. All 4 games you've played, they beat him all 4 times. You're right.
I know. And it was like, he couldn't figure out how to overcome them. But
yeah, no, that's a good idea. And you take your personnel and you kind of mock up the Saints personnel and try to duplicate what they do. I mean, who knows? Well, it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. Weather-wise, 62 degrees, 18-mile-an-hour wind gusts, northwest winds at 10 miles an hour. So no chance of rain. Should be fine. Fine.
Yep.
So
shouldn't interfere with that game. Yep.
All right.
Both these teams are used to playing in the kind of milder weather, so
that is true. That is true. It's that these games are getting harder to call because then they should get harder to call.
They should, yeah.
So because the teams are so evenly matched. Last up, back in the AFC, Sunday night at 6:30 on CBS, the Buffalo Bills travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. So this is almost like an AFC championship game.
Yeah.
A week early. Because I think most prognosticators, if not at the beginning of the year or the middle of the year or by the end of the year, had these two teams as the two best in the AFC, and now they're going to meet in the divisional round.
Yep.
So,
and the NFL tends to be, this kind of like overreaction to things, like when the Bills beat the Patriots by 30 points and the Chiefs, win handily. And this seems to be like the Bills, that Bills game, the win against the Patriots seems to like the coming together of their team, like in like all phases, like where they just doing exactly what they want to do, which is where you want to be in, the position you want to be in as you're heading into going through the playoffs. You want to be playing your best game, and it's what they're doing. Now they're playing Kansas City, who's had kind of like their ups and downs. They seemed like they lost their big play abilities early on, and they kind of seem to get it back and forth. Their defense certainly is playing very, very well, much better than they were, early part of the year or last year. Their offensive line has certainly recovered from their, Super Bowl fiasco last year, which kind of, I think, lost them the game. And this would be kind of, and I've heard this from a lot of sources. It's like, this is kind of the Bills' year because, look what they did last week, and now they're going in. They can kind of like overcome what they did, what happened to them last year, which is why I'm actually picking Kansas City because I'm going against like the NFL in general, and this year is just like one of those things where it's like you do the George Costanza opposite of, and hope for the best. So it's like these two teams to me seem so similar to each other. Really big play offenses. They're the bulk of their running game comes from their quarterbacks, or a lot of it. And their defenses are just getting better. So I'm hoping it'll just be like one of those, I don't know, like 34-31 or just like that type of close game. And Kansas City at home, I'm going to still stick with them until they get, just like you said with Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, we'll sticking with them until they lose. So I'm going to stick with them until they lose.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you about overreacting.
Yeah.
However, both of these teams put a whooping on their opponent last week.
Yeah,
Both
they
of them
did.
And in the case of the Chiefs, it's just like the question I just asked about Tampa Bay versus Philadelphia. Are the Chiefs that good,
I see. Yep.
or is Pittsburgh that bad? And I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B.
Yeah.
You're right, though. The Chiefs, that said, the Chiefs have definitely fixed everything that was ailing them in the first 7 or 8 weeks of the year, where they just looked lost, for lack of a better term. They didn't look like the Chiefs. However, they're not the Chiefs from 2 years ago. They are not the Chiefs who beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl and then went to the Super Bowl last year and then looked nothing like the Chiefs. Most of that was their patchwork offensive line.
Yeah.
Buffalo, on the other hand, I mean, again, a home playoff game where they haven't had they had one last year, but there were no fans. They were starved for that home playoff game. The place was nuts. I bet the concrete was actually shaking in that building.
Yeah.
And the way the Bills came out and just what they did to a Bill Belichick Patriots team, that's no slouch. I mean, yeah, you got a rookie quarterback. Yeah, you got a bunch of second-year players on that offense especially. But to just completely manhandle them like that and embarrass them like that, you don't see that from a Bill Belichick team, especially in the postseason. So, and a lot of it was Josh Allen. Like you said, Josh Allen running the ball. I was like, it was frustrating to watch because it's like, he's going to run because they don't have much of a running game beyond him. And God, it was just, he's so big. He looks like a Sherman tank going through people's defenses. He really does.
He does, yeah.
He's just so big, broad shouldered,
strong,
big dude. So, boy, and you hate to. The Bills look really hungry. Like they look like they want it. The Chiefs look like, yeah, we've done this before, and we're just gonna. They know what to do, and it looked like the Chiefs kind of they did their typical thing where they come out and they're a little slow at the beginning. And once T.J. Watt punched him in the face with that touchdown, it's almost like Mahomes said, all right.
That's it.
You want to play this game? Let's play this game. And they scored 5 touchdowns in 10 minutes, which is a new playoff record, by the way. Previously held by Tom Brady, 5 touchdowns in 23 minutes.
Okay.
So 13 minutes better than Tom Brady.
Yep.
5 touchdowns in 10 minutes. You got to be kidding. So here's one stat for you, though. I heard this today, and I was shocked. I had to... What? The Buffalo Bills are the only team with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
So they're very, very balanced. And that's an optical illusion to me. And even the radio host who was told that stat said, what? No, really? Because you think of them as an offensive machine, and their defense is, well, it's all right. It's the middle of the road, kind of. Like the Chiefs.
That's the way I think of it, yeah.
But they're not. And it's funny. You don't realize it, but they're not. So, what do I see happening here? I don't know. First, let's check the old odds from our, please sponsor us, FanDuel. It's a 1.5. Chiefs are giving 1.5. This is tough. The Bills have one injury listed right now in the injury report. It's Mario Addison, which critical on their defensive end. The Chiefs have a lot of them. However, they're getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back because he's been a full participation in practice.
Wow, okay.
L'Jarius Sneed is coming back, full participation. Darrell Williams, the backup running back, is not practicing, so who knows?
Okay.
He saw limited. He didn't even need to play against the Steelers. I mean, they could have run me last week against the Steelers after the first quarter. Tyreek Hill's a full participation, so they're good. The only big question mark, I think, is Willie Gay, the linebacker. Have you heard about this?
No. What happened?
He was arrested for a domestic dispute.
That's right.
Did you hear what they did? This poor guy. So they arrest him. He got in an argument with his ex, went over to the house to see his kids or something. He got in an argument, and he smashed her vacuum cleaner. She calls the cops. They arrest him and detain him overnight in jail because he broke a vacuum cleaner. He didn't put a finger on her. He didn't touch anybody.
Seems like
he didn't touch a soul.
Little overreaction.
A little bit. I mean, don't you think the cops should have been like, buy her a new vacuum and go home? Like,
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? I'm guessing he'll play, but right now he's up in the air. I mean, that's ridiculous. People get in arguments and smash things. We've all done it. Come on. So anyway, so the Chiefs have a little bit more on the injury report than Buffalo. Buffalo's pretty healthy going in there. You notice again, though, I must say this, that going through all these injury reports here, there's nobody on the COVID list.
All of a sudden, it's like, hey, we overcame them just in time.
Just in
for
time for the
playoffs.
postseason.
Wow.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, this is tough. This is tough, Edson.
Supposed to be. These
It's
games
supposed
are
to be
really tough.
I can see, the Bills also are going to want revenge for what happened to them in Kansas City last year.
Right.
They got skunked. And
championship game.
Yeah, and they came out. They were up 10-0, and then typical Chiefs, right? We're down 10-0. Let's just punch him in the face now. And I remember Allen running for his life. That's all I remember. The guy was running in circles, just trying to find anybody to throw the ball to. I don't think that's going to happen again, but I still don't. The Bills all year long have just not seemed. They've seemed overrated to me, for lack of a better term. I just don't believe in them. I did early on. They were I think they were my preseason pick to go to the Super Bowl. But as the season wore on, I just had less and less faith in this team. I don't. Maybe it's the 6 losses. I don't know.
Well, didn't they just have problems with Atlanta 3 weeks ago? Was it?
They
Atlanta?
had problems with a lot of people this year. They really
I know,
did.
but this is more of a recent.
Yes.
Yeah,
Atlanta went into Buffalo and was leading at halftime in that game.
Yeah. So.
So, I'm going to use your logic, which is my logic, that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are the defending AFC champs, and until somebody tells me otherwise, I'm picking them at home too. So real quick, let's check the weather in Kansas City. Please be snow. Please be snow. Whoops, wrong tab. Boop. Nope. 31 degrees. Real feel 27. Wind gust of 21 miles an hour. Winds out of the south-southwest at 5 miles an hour sustained. So this is the kind of weather the playoff guys like. This is, you know, for Buffalo, that's a trip down south, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a balmy 31.
Yep. It's true.
I mean, what was it, like -9 against the Patriots last week? It was ridiculous.
Jeez.
So, yeah, I mean, weather is not going to play a factor, I don't think, in any of these games, which is a shame. Well, unless you want to say San Francisco going into Green Bay. That might be the only one where the frigid cold might affect them, but these are professionals. I don't know. The 49ers made a run to the Super Bowl 3 years ago, so I don't think it's going to affect them.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to remember if Kansas, we had these preseason. I could have sworn yours was the Rams, which they're still in there, and mine was I should be rooting for San Francisco because I think my preseason Super Bowl NFC participant was San Francisco.
We're gonna have to go back to the videotape on that.
I think it might have been San Francisco.
I'm gonna have to go
Kansas
back.
City, but I definitely remember San Francisco. I'm not sure about the AFC.
I'll go back and watch that. That's gonna be interesting.
I could have sworn you said the Rams, but
I might have.
On the NFC side, I'm trying to remember the
or
AFC.
the Bucks. It was either the Rams or the Bucks. So.
But hey, regardless, they're still in it. So.
Yeah. Well, next week there'll only be 2 games to call.
Yeah, it's getting shrinking
down, and we'll put it under the microscope and focus in and see what we got. So
sit there 2 weeks waiting for the Super Bowl.
I know. I think we had one different again this week, right?
Yeah, so
I picked Tennessee.
Might be tied by the end
yeah.
Might be tied by next week. So
if I lose to you in the postseason
if
too,
not, you'll have to.
It's just not my year. Yeah, I'll be like Brett Saberhagen. Like every other year, I'll be terrible.
If we're not tied by next week, you'll have to pick opposite of me in on both championship games.
Probably get right.
just
throw caution to the wind and go for it.
I mean, all 4 of these games, I'm kind of going back and forth. So.
Well, I just hope we have a more entertaining weekend than last weekend.
Yeah.
So
usually the divisional round is a lot more entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance that 1 out of the 4 might be one of these clunkers, but I hope it's not more than that or any at all.
I hope not. There's nothing worse than that. You know, you get all your snacks ready. You turn the game on and it's over in 15 minutes. That's no fun.
And then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. What kind of chores can I do the laundry now?
Exactly. That means I have to go do something adult.
Damn.
I have to be an adult. Yeah. All right. Well, we're curious to find out what you guys think. Hope you did great on your wild card picks. It's better than me anyway. I was 3-3. So don't forget, you can find us right here in the Rumble. If the YouTube poops out, and if Edson does that, right above him is the social media. There you go, GeekTimenet. And we thank you. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, tell all your friends how lame we are. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week for the championship round. Ooh.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up below. Also, please subscribe to GeekTime TV. It really helps us grow the channel. And make sure you hit that bell icon in order to receive notifications every time we drop new content here. You can also check us out on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at GeekTimeNet. Thanks again for watching. We will see you soon.
Say, kids, what time is it?